Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a reason I did not do this litany with Democratic nominees that appeared before the committee. I don't think it would have made any difference in terms of how other people voted, and I didn't expect them to vote with the Republican majority, Elena Kagan and Sonia Sotomayor. I could have spent a lot of time talking about how antagonistic they are to the Second Amendment, in my view, how the unborn doesn't have much of a chance in their court, how the environmentalists always win, and there's no government too big to be said no to. The reason I didn't do that is because I thought they were qualified. And if you believe this has been a great plan to get a Trump nominee onto court, then you had to believe Trump was going to win to begin with. I didn't believe that. Obviously, I didn't believe that, saying all the things I said, followed closely by Ben. But apparently, what I said didn't matter, and that's okay with me. The American people chose Donald Trump, and here's what I can say about the man in front of us. No matter who had won our primary, no one could have chosen better than Neil Gorsuch to represent conservatism on the Supreme Court. So Donald Trump deserves to be congratulated for listening to a lot of people and coming up with, I think, the best choice available to a Republican president in terms of nominating somebody who is going to keep the conservative philosophy alive and well in the court. And I doubt if you'll be disappointed many times with Judge Gorsuch, but he's a pretty independent guy from what I can tell. You'll probably be more I've never been disappointed with Sotomayor and Kagan in the sense I knew what I was getting. They always vote with the liberal bloc. They're very qualified people. Sometimes the court comes together 9-0 to reject something, but most of the time, people break along the lines of where they came from. And I think Sotomayor and Kagan came from a view of the law that I don't accept in terms of who I would have chosen, but was well within the mainstream of judicial philosophy from the left. I thought they led exemplary lives, quite frankly. There were a lot of attacks on them that I didn't echo because I thought, give me a break. Really, are these the two worst women in the world? They lived exemplary lives, were highly qualified, and that's why I voted for them. I thought that's what we should be doing, and I'm beginning to wonder now how the game is played. I do remember when I voted for them, how many good editorials I got from papers that nobody in South Carolina read. I miss Harry. Harry's around here somewhere, Harry Reid. He said something nice about me. I can't find it. But he basically said that I wished more people would follow Senator Graham's lead when it comes to voting for very highly qualified nominees. He said that on the floor. Maybe that'll happen in the future. Well, time will tell. Now, as to whether or not this man is highly qualified, I'm dying to hear the argument that he's not. You may not like the view he has of the law, but I'm dying to hear somebody over there tell me why he's not qualified to be sitting here when a Republican president occupies down the street. Now, when you look at the Federalist Papers, I saw the musical Hamilton. It was pretty good. Reading his work was even better. And in the Federalist Papers 78, 87, I can't remember the number, basically what he tells us is that the role of the Senate is to make sure that the president doesn't pick someone specially favored for their state, an association to their family, someone really cronyism, I guess, is what we're supposed to be doing. And most Supreme Court justices, up until modern times, basically were confirmed with a voice vote. So things have changed, and we can't lay all the blame on our Democratic friends about politicizing the selection process. what I want to say to the public is I'm glad people like Judge Gorsuch are willing to go through this. And I'm sure Justice Sotomayor and Kagan had wished on a couple of days they had not chosen that path, but I think they made it through, quite frankly, with flying colors. So the issue for me is I'm waiting to hear somebody over there tell me why you're not qualified for the job that you're seeking. 2,700 decisions and you've been overruled once. An academic record. The reason I didn't do all the things you did academically, I couldn't get into the schools you were able to get into. But the way you've handled yourself, I think you should be proud of the way you've handled yourself on the court. I think all the statements by your colleagues who know you better than anybody up here, when no TV cameras rolling, say nothing but great things about you, even people who have a different philosophy. So I just want you to know that from my point of view, you're every bit as qualified as Justice Sotomayor and Kagan. I think you're just as good a man as they are two fine women. And over the course of the next couple of days, the American people are going to get to understand who you are and within limits your judicial philosophy. They're going to want you to decide every case they don't like here, and you'll have to say no. And there's a reason I didn't ask Justice Sotomayor and Kagan to give me an opinion as to what they would do when they got on the court, because I knew they wouldn't tell me that. Didn't really feel comfortable asking them that. As to Justice Garland, the one thing I can say for sure is that when Justice Scalia passed on February the 13th, we'd already had 3 primaries on the Republican side, and the campaign was in full swing on the Democratic side. I thought long and hard about that. Are we doing something unfair here by not allowing the current president to nominate somebody and fill a vacancy in the last year of their presidency after the political process had started? So when I started looking around at what other people thought, here's what Joe Biden thought in '92. If someone steps down, I'd highly recommend the president not name someone and not send up a name up. If Bush did send someone up, I would ask the Senate seriously consider not having a hearing on that nominee. It would be a pragmatic conclusion that once the political season is underway, and it is, action on Supreme Court nominations must be put off until after the election campaign is over. That's what my friend Joe said in 1992. The bottom line here is I have no doubt in my mind if the shoe were on the other foot, the other side would have delayed the confirmation process until the next president were elected. In 100 years, when we've had the president of one party in power and the Senate in the hands of another party, I think we have one person confirmed in the last year of a term. So I don't feel like any injustice has been done anybody here. And the bottom line, when you read Democratic words from the past, they're saying basically what we said. The one thing I can say is that I've been consistent. I've voted for everybody since I've been here. 4, Alito, Justice Roberts, Sotomayor, and Kagan, and I feel all 4 had one thing in common. No Republican would have chosen Sotomayor or Kagan, but how could a Republican say they were not qualified for the job they had? They had lived an exemplary life, well qualified, and had years on the bench. Now the shoe is on the other foot. I remember after I voted for Ms. Kagan, all the headlines in the Washington Post were, "This will ensure that Graham gets primaried." They were right. That's not the only reason to my primary opponents, but that was the main reason. And I made it through just fine. And I don't know how we got here as a nation. Scalia had 98-0. Ginsburg, I think, was 96-3. What happened between now and then? How did we go from being able to understand that Scalia was well-qualified conservative and Ginsburg was a well-qualified liberal and recognized that elections mattered? I don't know how we got there, but here's what I hope. that we turn around and go back to where we were, because what we're doing is going to destroy the judiciary over time.